Hello and welcome to the meditation conversation. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and today I am joined by Magic Barclay. Magic is the author of 4 books and is an expert in many areas related to toxicity and immune function. So, welcome, Magic. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Kara. Thanks for having me.
So, let's start by talking about your journey and how you've been led to help so many come into holistic wellness.
Yeah, well, look, we all as practitioners and healers are healing from something. And, that's what brings us the nuggets of wisdom. And that's really by learning through doing. And unfortunately, my life took a few turns with my health where, I was in quite a desperate situation. But I'm not one to take things lying down and, given the word terminal, that just wasn't in my
What?
vocab. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. When was that?
That was, oh my goodness, that was 2014. So a
No
while ago
kidding.
now.
So, like, terminal cancer
Terminal
or
cancer. Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. If I
Wow.
didn't do something, so I was only, well, not only, but I was at stage 4. And
Oh
they
my
said, look, if you don't
goodness.
do something, this is going to get worse. And you're seeing the
Oh,
end of your life in front of you. So,
you're
I don't
kidding.
take that lying down. So I threw myself into study and learning about the body. I was already working from a fitness space and clinical nutrition, but that wasn't enough. That was just so mainstream that I was missing a lot that was out there. So, I threw myself into all things alternative medicine and holistic medicine and functional medicine, and that's where I am today. And I just love it.
Um,
Like just today, I got a lady with a leukemia diagnosis come to me and say, "Can you help me at all?" And it's really important to know that when we have a really serious diagnosis like that, you have to be very careful giving false hope. And so I certainly don't do that. I want your listeners to know that. But what I do is I treat root cause. What happened first? What happened maybe in your childhood? Maybe it's a trauma response. Depending on what your diagnosis is, which is a label, what triggered that? And that's what I treat. So, all love and light to people who say heal, but you really have to know what you're healing from.
wow. So you've left a lot of mystery there. Like, how did you are you still working with cancer? Are you still healing from cancer yourself? Or
I'm
have
in
you gone from
remission.
stage
I'm really
You
happy to
are,
say.
wow. From
Yeah.
stage 4.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
It is.
Wow.
Well,
And
I
so
I did have surgery. Sorry, I did have surgery,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I didn't do chemo or radiation because I really did want to
Okay.
treat what got me to that point. And
Yeah.
I'm not a stick my head in the sand kind of person. I do get my cancer markers checked regularly, but yeah, at this point, I'm in remission and loving life.
Wow. That's incredible. So what did that look like for you getting to the root cause and healing in that way? I mean, I know you said you had the surgery, but that's not going to just be like, "Oh, okay, we did it. It's gone." You know. What were the steps that worked for you?
Yeah, so for me, it was addressing my immune response. So I had multiple autoimmunes, I still do, and
Mhm.
addressing why that happened was really looking for me at the trauma base behind things. And, I used to joke I was a stress junkie, but that wasn't far from the truth because my cortisol is still quite high. And looking now at the functional health side of things, that's got a lot to do with where I found myself. So, everyone's root cause is very different. I know what mine was, but it took me quite a few years to find out.
Wow. That's really, really something. So let's talk about how the different types of healing, because you have, we can see if you're watching on the video, or this will be released later, but you do functional and integrative medicine. You've got a lot of different expertise in different immunity types of, advanced immune practitioner, advanced practitioner in innate immunity. And then there's the mold toxicity as well. So how can there are a lot of different ways that we can look at our healing, and facets that we can look at our healing. How can we use, the different facets that are out there that are part of us and our health, those facets that make up our health, to be able to come into wholeness?
Well, you mentioned the word wholeness. That's how we do it. So
Mm.
many practitioners out there, be it Western medicine, be it naturopathy, even some integrative doctors treat using reductionism. And that's taking something in isolation, treating that, talking about that, trying to find a healing solution to one thing, whether it be one condition, one symptom, one system of the body. And that's not how the body works. So T. Colin Campbell wrote a book quite a while ago now called Whole, and he talks about wholism. That's what my practitioners and I do, which is wholism. So we look at every symptom as a whisper. What is that symptom telling us? Not that we're going to treat that symptom or that collection of symptoms, but they are pointing to something that is not whole. We treat all the body systems as a whole. They all interact, they all work together. One of my gorgeous mentors, Dr. Perry Nicholson from Stop Chasing Pain, always says the body has absolutely no obligation to make any sense to you whatsoever. He also says no system works alone, and he's right for both of those, because the body will do one thing, and that is keep you from danger. It tries to keep you safe. And when we're looking at holism, it does that through all the body systems working together. So, being a holistic practitioner is really working with holism, looking at everything that happens. And when clients come to us, we do a free call called a root cause analysis. And that's a holism report, basically, because we go through a lot of the systems of the body and we get a full historical snapshot of, what came first, what happened, what triggered something else, which may have triggered something else. We kind of unravel the onion on paper. And that's really
Mm.
important because the body is a whole.
Mm. Wow. Well, what about using the connection to self and nature in healing? How does that play into everything?
Wow, I love that. I actually talk about environmental connection. And, you can look on one side of a coin and it will be ego. And that is that we as humans see ourselves so evolved and so separate from everything else that we live in our ego state. And on the other side of the coin is eco. And that is that we are one species sharing the earth with all the other millions of species of plants and animals and pathogens, everything is there. And we are just one of those beings, one of those things. So, environmental connection is knowing that it's eco. You are part of a system. Just as no body system works alone, neither does a species. And we really need to be quite mindful of that. So, in treating with holism and holistically, we need to look at things like grounding from the earth. We need to look at calming of the mind and listening to what both our brains tell us, our cerebral brain and also our gut, because that's our second brain. We need to look at what does the earth give us. It gives us food, and it gives us opportunity for grounding and taking in minerals through our feet and our hands. And, the whole list goes on. We are part of the water table. We are part of the atmosphere. And so being connected to environment is very, very special. we as humans can understand that connection if we allow it to happen. So we talk about that a lot. And, that's really important for sustainable and ethical health, that we are part of a much larger ecosystem.
Thank you for that. I love that. I love how you're bringing the ecology into the physical health. And it's so important. And I feel like because one of the things that you said that caught my attention in the beginning of that was that we have this this ego, and we think that we're evolved beings and that we are self-sustaining and that that's like a higher form of our evolution, whereas is as we evolve in our own development as a soul, as we begin to see ourselves more and more beyond the physical, we start to understand that actually that's a devolution. When we see ourselves as separate from our neighbors, separate from other people or other brothers and sisters within humanity, if we see ourselves as separate, that's actually a devolution from our natural state. And we can broaden that to say, well, we see ourselves as separate from our environment. We see like the natural world as something that happens outside of us. And that also is a reflection of devolution. As we evolve in our consciousness and we expand our consciousness, we understand that it is one thing that's happening. We're connected to it all. And something hit me like a ton of bricks, like relatively recently, within the last couple of months or a few weeks, I'd say. But it was around this how particularly, I don't know, maybe it's different. I'm sure it's different in different places, but where I live, it's like, money is king, money above everything, to the extent that, I overheard a couple of old white men talking in a coffee shop about how, maybe what we need is a good war, because of the state of the economy. And, we just weren't things weren't as robust in the economy, so maybe we just need a good war to get things going again. And that's such an old mentality. It's such I mean, it is like there's a not a theology, but that is like a theory within economy, that wars help to spur the economics, but it's not like an evolved sense. It's a lower level thought and theory, and but it is this like money is king, and what can help our economy, that's what reigns. That is the most important thing. And until we can change that within each of us to say there are things that we hold higher than the economy, and maybe those things can, if we are evolved enough and creative enough, those don't have to be separate things, where it's like we can have a robust economy and let it nurture humanity and let it nurture and focus on our economics and our environment, not our economics, our environment. The ecosystem is what I was trying to say. But it's this like we are part of it. And right now, for a lot of us, there's a wedge where it's like, yeah, but first money, money above everything. The ecosystem, that's a nice to have. Healthy humanity and peace and everything, that's a nice to have. But above everything, money. And so this is just kind of, as you were talking, it was like, yes, how the ecosystem helps our own physical health. It's another way that our environment is, that we can expand into what we think about health, what we think of our ecosystem, what we think of, everything that's happening here. It's just an opportunity to expand um, our existence and our understanding and our experience.
And
So,
there's a really important distinction to make here. So, when I'm talking eco as part of an ecosystem, we as a species, we need to be part of everything. We seem to have misguided ourselves as humans. And so, what we do is we give away our power. And I'm not going to get too tinfoil hat here for your listeners, but I do need to explore this a little bit just to make you think. So, you give your power to a doctor, fix me, prescribe me something. Now, the doctor makes money off everything that they do with you, which is okay. Making money is not a bad thing,
mm,
right? But who are you giving your power to? Who's making the medicines? Is it the same companies making the medicines that are telling you what you should be thinking about on the TV or on the radio? Are those same companies led by power brokers who have their hands in politics around the world? Are those same power brokers connected to companies that make synthetic fake foods that make you sick to go back to the doctor? That is a whole separate ecosystem that you are not really part of. Now, would you prefer to be part of that, chasing money? And by the way, you're not the one making the money. All those other people are. They're making money from you. So, do you want to be in that money chasing cycle, or would you rather get together with your neighbors, all grow food, and share things? Someone might be great at growing tomatoes, and you look at the tomato plant and it just falls over. But you're great at growing potatoes, or someone else is great at growing herbs, and you meet at a local park or you meet at a local hall, and you will swap stories and have a cup of tea or have a cup of coffee and swap food. That's
mm,
more ecosystem locally, and it's healthier for you because you're going to be eating fresh food, not synthetic packet food. And who's making the gains? You are. So,
right.
something we need to look at how we address ecosystem. What is the ecosystem you want to be part of for your health, for your autonomy, your rights, and for your happiness? Because if you're giving your rights away consistently, you can't be happy. Just
Yeah.
a food for thought there.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's wonderful. I love that. Um, so I am very curious about this PNEI. So you are an advanced practitioner for psycho, neuro, endo, immunology of trauma. So this is new for me. Can you please explain what this is?
Yeah, look, I actually teach other practitioners about it now too.
Mm,
So I actually first learnt about it when I read The Body Says No by Dr. Gabor Mate. And, he spoke about the ongoing effect. Remember, I said no system works alone.
mhm.
So, just to give you a really silly example, but it makes it easy to understand, imagine you're going to give a talk to someone, public speaking, and, that's your biggest fear of speaking to 10,000 people in a stadium. Okay. You have a thought that it's scary. So that's the P. Now, while you're having that kind of thought, your cortisol's raising, your adrenaline's pumping, and you're having all this fight, flight, freeze, fade mode kind of symptomology going on because of the thought. Okay, so that's the P, the psycho. Now, if you ignore that fear long enough, remember I said earlier the body needs to keep you safe. If you ignore that fear long enough, it sends you to the N, so the nervous system, the neuro. And so you might start getting like a really bad headache, almost like someone's hitting you with an axe, and you're like, nah, every time I go public speaking, this happens. I get a pain, something happens, I'm jittery, I'm nervous. You ignore that long enough, and when I say ignore it long enough, this could even be in seconds that you're ignoring it, okay?
Mm.
So the P's happened, the N's happened, it brings the E in, the endocrine. You start feeling flushed, maybe a bit dizzy, you're sweating, you're clammy, and you're just like, your heart's racing. because your hormones are going all over the place to keep you safe. Now, if that happens long enough, and again, could just be seconds, could be minutes, could be hours, could be days, could be weeks, months, years. So you've had the P, you've had the N, you've had the E, now the I jumps in. So the immune system is the big dog on the block. And that's going to say, do you know what? I'm seeing these thoughts, which are toxic, of I don't want to speak in public, I'm scared, someone might hurt me, whatever it is that you're thinking, okay? Then the N, so the nervous system sends impulses through the body, which actually creates toxins, because every reaction in the body can create toxins if it's not the body feeling safe, right? So we've got that, and then we've got the E. Well, what happens when our hormones are disrupted? Can be toxic. So the I says, the immune system says, you are not safe. So you're coming up towards the public speaking gig, and all of a sudden you've got a sore throat, you've got the sniffles, your eyes are running, your ears might be blocked, you're getting a bit phlegmy, you're like, oh, see, now I can't do the talk, I'm getting sick, because immune is keeping you safe. So that's an example of the PNEI. Now, when we look at things like childhood trauma, work stress, social stress, any stress that's not eustress, which is the good stress, but any distress, we're looking at pain, we're looking at fear, we're looking at being ill. Anything like that happens, that can actually be applied to the PNEI system, because your immune system, in the end, will keep you safe. That's a brief description of it.
Okay. And so then is that a root cause? Is it just about finding the root cause? Is it about working with that so that those triggers are disrupted, or how does that work in terms of um, helping with an individual's health?
Well, we always address root cause at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's what we do. But yes, it can help with an individual's health. We do need to reroute where that information on the PNEI pathway is coming from. So for me, it was stemming right back to my childhood. There was a whole lot of adverse childhood experiences and adverse childhood relationship experiences that were starting this. So for me, I had to go back and reframe all of those experiences using a number of techniques that I teach the practitioners. And, it could be as simple as, I have something right here, an essential oil. For me, something that makes me think of great things is the smell of dill oil, because
Mm.
it reminds me of being with my nana cooking in the kitchen. She taught me how to make dill pickled cucumbers. So for me, going through my PNEI work, it was dissociating the fear and the memory and the triggers from what was happening and trying to tie it to the smell of dill, because that was good and that was uplifting and that was loving and that was nurturing. So, that's just one tiny technique that I share with people, because it's reframing the situation of stress and taking the positives that we often block out. If anyone had asked me before I learned about all of this, what was going on, when you were 5 or 6, I would have been able to rattle off all the bad things. But I would have really struggled to say, but you know what? On a Sunday morning, I would be making dill cucumbers with my nana. So
Mm.
it's really finding things and reframing it so you're not living in that distress state all the time.
Mm. That's beautiful. So it's okay. And now I'm seeing it. It is dealing with past traumas, and it's helping you. So it's kind of a therapeutic way to do that, but you're dealing with ultimately a memory, but it's that what it has done to the physical body and the physical response and how that is affecting your health now. I
Yeah,
love that.
totally. But
It's
it can be a current trauma or a current
mm,
a
Yeah.
form of distress. So it doesn't even have to
Mhm.
be from the past. Mine was. But
Yeah.
yeah, I had a lady come to me just the other day who was being bullied in her workplace, and it was new. But this whole
Mm.
PNEI thing had swung in straight away, and she was, being told by her doctor she had autoimmune, but she was healthy till 2 years ago. So, it was for her quite a current thing.
Right. That's fascinating. I love it. So, how can people find out more about you and the Holistic Natural Health Center and be in touch with you? You're in Australia, first of all.
We are in Australia, but we work remotely now. We have actually closed our physical clinics to really broaden our services to everyone. So we work remotely either by phone or by Zoom, so we can work with anyone around the world. And
Mhm.
the best place to find us is on our website. So it's www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. And holistic has a W in front of it because we use wholism. And there you can find our blogs, you can find all of our services, you can find our own podcast, and more importantly, you can actually book a root cause analysis call, which is complimentary. So you'll get our fabulous long intake form. I had a lady joke a little while ago that it was like filling out a thesis. So, we need this information for root cause. And then we
Right.
book a call either by phone or by Zoom and we go through our findings. Now, at that point, everything is complimentary. You get a whole lot of information that you've probably not heard before. And from there, we go on and we may offer you a package to work with us. We may not. We may part ways just with a whole lot of information and some well wishes. Really depends on the person, how the analysis goes, and whether we feel that we're a good fit, because we do not want to cause distress.
Wonderful. It's beautiful. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I know it's late there in Australia, so I really appreciate you being here today. And thank you for all the work that you're doing to educate people and to help people come into that whole self, um, which is just vital right now. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. And you mentioned a fantastic word just to leave your listeners with a parting thought: self. And that is, if you do not put yourself first, no one else is going to. So, chasing symptoms, chasing pain, chasing thoughts isn't going to help because they're outside of the self.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Magic.